I'm Lisa Wood. My company is called Sprout New Media. I'm located in Stowe, Vermont. This is my first WordCamp. I've wanted to come for a long time and just really excited to be here. I applaud you all for making it to the bitter end and being here for the last session. And I hope to make it entertaining for you. Quick show of hands. Designers in the room? Okay. Developers? Users? Sweet. Nice mix. Okay. My objective today is really to give you some of the best practices for creating just a nice visual design. Very basic. We've done a lot of code stuff. I know my head is hurting from all of the code and all of the technologies that we've been talking about this weekend. So this is going to be lighter. I'm also going to preface this with, I don't usually work off of a PowerPoint. I'm usually much more free-flowing. So this is the way I would normally go through a session like this without the graphics set in place ahead of time. So take that for what it's worth. What's going to happen? Okay. So design really is what we have in our minds, and we bring it out into a way that we can express it visually with the world, right? Pretty simple. Everything around us is design. That room upstairs on the 11th floor, wow, gorgeous design. If you really take a look around you, this building in particular, every single thing in here has a very conscious design behind it. So what this is about is designing on the web. We're going to tell a story, always, with whatever we put out there. It's not always a story we want to tell, right? So my goal here is to show you how not to have your site look like this. Or this one. Not quite as bad, but still, pretty crazy. Not sure what they were thinking. This one actually has a slider, so it's not that outdated, but it's interesting. And yes, this is the entire page. This one I just had to show you live because this is a hoot. Very interesting content. Crazy. I don't know, maybe this was a class, maybe this is an ongoing thing, you've seen this before, but visually, it's really confusing. Not the way we want to design our sites.
It's the mid-90s coming back.
I don't know, I think they updated this last in fall 2008. So,
That late?
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to move on. No, we're not. There we go. Okay, so we're going to help you make sure your designs don't suck so that we're not hiding them from the world. First things with any project, design development, what have you, any project, we need to ask the right questions, right? We need to find out who's the client, first of all, who's their customer, what's the purpose of the website? Is it informational like a brochure? Is it an e-commerce site? Is it supposed to sell things? Is it supposed to give directions? What's it supposed to do? There's so many possibilities. So we have to be really clear before we get started. And then what do we need it to do? What kind of functionality does this website need to have? All of those things go into the design. What's the customer's pain? Is this a site for like an ADD client who can't deal with a lot of visuals and needs to be very simple and clear? Or is this for a store where we need to have lots of products with clear information and a lot of different categories and things like that? What do we need to do? What's the customer's pain? What are they looking for? Is there existing branding that we need to work into our design? So the customer might have, and I see this a lot, they might have a logo that's, 10 years old and could use some refreshing, but they've used it on everything. They really want to stay with it. So how can we use their existing branding and still make something that's attractive even if the logo isn't? And I'm going to start with color. I'm a visual person. I love Pinterest. It's great for inspiration, and colors make a huge difference in the look and feel of a website and the mood that it creates. So we've got the color wheel here, and raise your hand if you're familiar with the color wheel. Awesome. If you're not, just take a look at this. We've got cool colors in our reds, we've got warm colors, and our blues and cools. And then over here, we've got, the way the color wheel is broken up, we've got primary colors, which are red, blue, and yellow, and secondaries, which are shades of those, that I'm not getting into right now. Complementary colors on the opposite side of the wheel, and then you've got colors that are complementary that are next to each other on the wheel. Now there's a lot of psychology that goes into choosing colors for your website. Blues tend to be kind of corporate, business. Reds are obviously more fiery driven sites. Green, a lot of times you'll use green for like a buy button because you want somebody to go instead of stop. So sometimes red for a buy button isn't a great choice. So there's some information there, and there's a ton of information on the web on the psychology of color that you can look up if you choose to. Taste the rainbow. It's not what we're about. Not for this. We want to keep it simple. We want to keep it simple. Best practice for your colors in any design, but particularly a website. One or two main colors that complement each other, and an accent color, which is also called a conversion color. So, for example, we've got two shades of one color, which is fine. You can use multiple shades. And then we've got a second color here and our accent color. And that usually means that we're going to use that color for when we want people to do something. So here's some examples of our two main colors. These are three different color schemes. You see, two, and then the accent color. And so this is just a quick example. There's a million different combinations, obviously. For this particular site, we might have the background be the yellow, or a toned down version of that yellow, and then some blue, and then the accent color might be the buy buttons for the links. So that's what that conversion color is for. It's what do we want to use that for when we want people to do something next. Okay? Any questions so far? Feel free to raise your hand if you do. For choosing color schemes, I often use a photo. I really like to take a photo from nature, for example, because in nature all the colors go together. They just do. I don't know how, but they just do. So you take a photo and you might pick out some colors out of that, which is kind of cool. This is a tool that's available online through Adobe. It's called Cooler, and you can actually use this to make a color scheme. We spend a lot of time playing around with this, just all kinds of sliders. So here's the green, and it tells you some complementary colors. The blue, maybe that purple is an accent. So there's a neat tool for you. And I'll have the slides up on slide deck after the session. Another tool is Color Lovers. This site is kind of cool because it's all user-generated color palettes and patterns even. You can get patterns from here too. So if you go to Browse and you can go to Palettes, and you can actually see some color schemes that people have submitted. And granted, they're using more than just the basic two colors, but you can really get some good inspiration, and if you like some of these, you can actually use them. And there's patterns as well. You can also make your own color schemes on this site. So this is something to be, those aren't the coolest patterns, but you see what I mean. Okay, question on color. Yes?
I've actually, Cooler is a great tip that looks really cool. I found a really helpful trick. It's called Instant Eyedropper, and I found that it's like a little, you've heard of this, I see that look on your face. You can literally pick out a color from a picture. Because I had a client who was like, I have this pen and I really love the color of my pen. How do I get that color? I'm like, well, send me a picture of it. And you can literally get the HTML code for any pixel in a photo, and I found that really, really helpful.
You can. It's very cool. When we go back to the web, I'll give you an example of that. One thing with the pictures, I use a similar tool. I don't know if it's the same tool or not, but I'll often post color schemes out of a photo on my website. So if you're ever looking for some inspiration for color, go to sproutmedia.com. You'll see them every now and then. Okay, typography. Exactly, this is just a definition off of Wikipedia. The art and technique of arranging type in order to make language visible. Pretty simple, right? Well, when you get into it, it's not quite so simple because we have so many choices. We have our serif that has the little feet, the sans serif. We've got wide fonts, light fonts, narrow, display fonts. We've got crazy. Now we have wingding fonts and fonts that have all capitals. Tons and tons of handwritten fonts. And when you're choosing fonts, there's some guidelines. And again, I'm definitely in the camp of keeping it simple. Clear and easy to read. Some fonts are easier to read than others. There's just no doubt about it, especially in your body copy, body text. Like Helvetica is easy to read. George is easy to read. There's a lot of them. But one thing that's really important to point out is that we're not limited to what we call web-safe fonts anymore, which were like basically our computer system fonts. And maybe we had 10 or so. And I'll show you in a minute how we can use more. But we are unlimited, and we are only limited by the licensing for the font. So again, I'll show you that in a minute. But clear and easy to read. Just like color, we're going to use one font, maybe two, for our website project. Any more than that, and we get this. When you use too many fonts, they all fight for your attention. It's too complicated. Our brain can't easily comprehend. And so people are just going to check out. Opposites attract. A fat font with a skinny font, serif with a sans serif, it's things like that. Try to make them differentiate from each other. Line height, we'll show you in a second. Line height is really important. You may have heard about that yesterday in one of the sessions. And again, unlimited choices for web. So here's two paragraphs. Which one do you think is more readable? Over the green check, right? That's really easy for you this time of day. So lines are spaced a little bit further apart than that. This is a little harder on the eyes to focus on. And the longer your line, the longer your content area, the larger the spacing should be. And again, you can take that too far and just have the opposite effect. Yes?
Are there any main rules in design about left justification versus full justification on the web?
It really depends on the flow of the page. You guys hear me? Is this working? I like left justified. I don't do the, justified on both. That is really hard to read because then you have crazy spacing, font spacing on a line. And again, it really depends on the project. As a general rule, I go left justified. Don't do a lot of center. I just don't. It's not my style. Some people do. Every designer has their own style. Right justification, not so much unless you're arranging something on a page and it makes sense. Once you do this for a while, you have a sense of what looks right and what doesn't. So it's all about practice. Okay, so that's line height. H1s, H2s, H3s, it's code. But it's hierarchy, page hierarchy. So our H1 is typically our page title, headline, right? And hierarchy gives the page structure. So it tells the reader, these are the things that are the most important. And unless they've changed SEO again, there is still some SEO benefit to hierarchy. H2, typically from a design perspective, H1 is the biggest, H2 is a little bit smaller, H3 is smaller still, and oftentimes I'll have that in a completely different font. So that would be my second font. or a different color. So maybe it's the same font, different color. The font in your logo doesn't count. The font in your body text does. And then bolding, like you could have a H4, H5, A6, H6. It doesn't, I don't get into that. It's like 1, 2, and 3. Maybe 4 is really just bolded text. I don't think we need to get any more complicated than that. So a couple of tools that you can use to find web fonts. Really easy. Google is awesome. They're Google fonts. They're all free. You can download them to your computer. You can use, they give you a little snippet of code to embed them on your website. So if you say, I want to find a display or handwriting font, and it should refresh. Maybe.
Get on there.
It usually did it? Oh, okay, it did. So fast, I didn't see it. Okay, so if we wanted to use this one, we were making a fun Halloween page, and we wanted to use that, then we would go down here to our collection. We can review it, or we can just go right ahead and use it. And then it tells us the code that we need to add to our website. And it gives us a couple of different ways to do that. So we can import it from the Google API. We can use some JavaScript if we want to. And then it gives us a CSS to put into our CSS file. Really easy. And they're constantly adding fonts all the time. Some of them are better than others. I mean, some of them are absolutely gorgeous, and others I wouldn't touch with a 10-feet pole. But for the most part, I mean, there's a lot to choose from there. And then another tool that gives you just as many choices in a different way as Font Squirrel. These are all free for commercial use. Great free font resource. You can download them. You can, if you have a font on your computer and you want to use it, they have a web font generator. And as long as your license allows it, like Adobe fonts you can't upload. But as long as your font's license allows it, you just click that, and there's an Add Fonts button. And you find the font file and you upload it, and it will create a kit for you, a web font kit. You then take the CSS and the code and you put it on your site.
Does it generate for the Internet Explorer? Because I know that.
Does it generate for what?
Does it generate for Internet Explorer? But because I know that needs a special kind of font.
Yeah, it does work on Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer is always going to have some things that it doesn't like. I use this all the time on client websites, and I've never had a problem with it.
So we basically need, if we use this, we basically need 3 different kind of font extensions, right?
It gives you all of them. In your kit, it gives you all of the formats that you're going to need.
Super.
Yeah, really great resource. Yeah, I use Font Squirrel a lot. And so you can, if you want to just look around and find some, there's tons. And you can filter, and then you can download onto your own computer, like I said, and then upload to the web. And then this one I just found yesterday, actually. It's kind of cool. There's some sites out there that will automatically pair fonts for you. And this one gives you some choices. So they're kind of already done the work. Really just play around and look at all the different resources out there. And I will ask you, I'll ask everybody, please choose responsibly. We are a Fortune 500 company, not a lemonade stand. Please don't use nonsense. It's got a bad rap. If you're making a comic book, it's definitely the one to use, or a child's poster for your kids' preschool. But other than that, not really what we use for professional projects. Questions on fonts? Yes.
This is maybe a personal preference thing, and oh, sorry, do you want to use that?
Yes.
Quick question about upper lowercase. Uppercase seems to be really popular and really eye-catching these days. Personally, I think it feels like yelling and shouting and angry and aggressive. How do you feel?
Depends on the font, depends on the project. On my website, I use primarily all lowercase. I don't even use sentence case on my own site. I think that in a headline or, something like that you want to call attention to, all caps is fine, but absolutely, it can be overused and it can definitely be perceived as shouting. Great point. Thanks for pointing that out. So grids and layout. With responsive design, this is really kind of gone out the window, but I want to show you the basics on grids. We want things to be lined up well, so that they're visually pleasing. And we have, 3 seconds, maybe 5 when someone gets to our website, and they're going to decide if they like it, they want to stick around for a while, or they're just going to take off. So, yes, the code's important. Yes, everything else that we learned about this weekend is important. It still has to look good. So, a grid, you'll see, this page, these are 3 columns. I didn't do the whole grid, but everything is really lined up. Right? This is just a poster, this isn't a website. But this is a website, and it's very, it's built on a grid. We've got the 4 sections here. These 2 rows really are the rest of the upper part of the site, so they work in a grid even though everything doesn't have to line up exactly to the edges. But it's, you don't have things all willy-nilly on the page. Now, this site you might think, oh, well it does look like things are kind of arranged erratically, right? And then lower down the page. So it really is built on a grid. And this is Charity Water is a really great example of a well-built or well-designed website. And again, they have grid. Lower down the page. Still have that grid, and they've broken it down even further. So this section takes up 3 of the columns, and this one has the 5. Questions on grids? I'm moving too quickly, and I wanted to make this lightweight for you, and less code heavy, but please stop if you need me to. White space and padding. Let's not crowd everything, right? We all need some breathing room. Minimalistic design. Designer knows he's achieved perfection, not only when there's nothing left to add, but when you can't take anything else out. You can't take anything else out without degrading the design, then you hit it. Again, nothing's breathe. These are really cramped. A little smaller line height. So this is a photo, and there's not a lot of space there. This just feels better. Yes. Are you awake? You can do some jumping jacks? Good. So, that's this is a nice example of a site. This is local. This is the Boston Salon that I found when I was Googling. And they've got a nice layout there. They've got the grid working, a lot of white space, a lot of breathing room, elegant, simple. And this is another one. I actually want to show you this one live because it's really cool. There's very little on this page, right? They've got 2 colors, black and blue. Blue is their conversion color, and white is their background. When you click on it, here's where you come. And as you scroll down the page, again, there's a couple of columns, lots of white space, very simple, very clear. Not a lot to it, but this is a very well-designed website. And just because it doesn't have a lot on it doesn't mean it didn't take a lot of time to do. Yeah. As with so many things, less is more. Questions before we move on? Yes.
Did Did you go through the Non-Designer's Web Book by Robin Williams at any point?
No.
Oh, when I was taking Dreamweaver, that was like the first primer for us.
Oh, yeah? No, I've never heard of that book.
The Non-Designer's Web Book, Robin Williams.
Non-designer's web book.
It's a quick read, and it's got a lot of guidance. Not as deep as you, but
So I'll check that out. Who's the author again?
Robin Williams,
Robin Williams.
not
Okay.
the actor.
Oh,
She's
thank
a
you.
designer.
I'll check that out. Okay, moving on to images. We need photos. We can have the best colors, best typography. We still need some photos. It's not just what it looks like, it's how it feels. All of what we've been talking about goes along with how the visitor feels when they hit our website. This is a page. Here's some text. That's a little better. Okay, tips and best practices. When you're choosing photos, really important. Respect the photographer. If you're using something that you found on a photo site, make sure you give credit to the photographer. I'll give you some resources in a minute on where you can find good photos. Don't just grab photos off the web. Don't Google something, grab a photo, and use it. Even with giving credit to the site, if you're using something for commercial use, you have to have the proper licensing rights. There's just no two ways about it. Okay. Use images that are relevant. We're not going to put Iron Man on our ADHD site, are we? Use images that reflect the mood. So a yoga site might have some stones, might have some lavender. They're not, again, going to have Iron Man. Quality counts. If you have a great camera and you can take some well-lit, professional-looking photos, there's some great cameras out there that can do a lot. But make sure that, if you're making a hotel site, those guest rooms have the proper lighting, have the proper staging, that they look professionally done, because it's going to reflect on what your customers think. I've worked with a fair amount of clients that take their own pictures, and they give me like hundreds of pictures, and I can't use any of them. And I have to have that really hard conversation with them that says, you know what, you really need to invest a little bit of money and get a professional to do this for you. It makes a huge difference. Web resolution, you probably all know 72 dpi, and use optimization tools, whether you use Photoshop or use an online tool or something like that. Just so that you're not using 300 dpi images on the web that will slow down your site, because we know how important speed is. JPEG and PNG formats are best. I use PNGs when I need a transparent background. Otherwise, I use a JPEG most of the time because the files are smaller. Sightlines is something, I don't really have a visual for you, but think of, you have an image of a businesswoman, right? And she's looking, and you have a buy button here. And she's looking over here. Or she's faced like this with her hands crossed. You see so many photos now. Kind of over that, but. And she's looking that way. But if you flipped that photo, and she was looking down towards your buy button, or up towards your e-newsletter sign-up box, right? Your eyes are going to follow where she's looking naturally. So pay attention to how the photos you choose are working with your content. Great place to find images. Ever heard of Comfite? Anybody? Yes. Comfite pulls its database from Flickr. Really cool. Let's just search for, I don't know, search for laughter. If our internet will work with us, there we go. Okay. So all of these images above this line are stock photos that you can buy. Everything below that line is from Flickr. So you can click on a photo, and if you hover over it, it tells you the dimensions that it's available in. You can even say, I don't really want that one, so I'm going to X that out. Usually works, but we'll use this one as an example. Usually you can X them out and they just disappear. But this photo, it tells you what sizes you can download it in, and then it allows you to download it, but also gives you this code to copy and paste so that you give a photo credit back to that photographer. Really, really important. And before you choose a photo, over here, you can choose your Creative Commons license. So you can select, I only want images that I am licensed to use commercially. So you don't have to worry about everything else out there. Everything below this line, you are able to use if you embed that code. Yes?
There's a WordPress plugin for that.
There is a WordPress plugin. Yep. Yep. I tend to not use the plugins, but yes, there is.
What's it called?
I think it's just
I think it's Comfite. Yeah. Yeah. Really good resource, yes.
Creative Commons has its own search tool as well. That'll search Google, all the different
Everything?
image places. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
If you go to their website.
Yeah. Okay, I'll check that out. Thank you. If you choose to go the paid route, I use iStock Photo when I need stock photography. It's, I find it's the most reasonably priced with the best selection, without getting super, super expensive. Their pricing has definitely increased in the past 6 months to a year, but it's still fairly reasonable. So iStock Photo is a good resource. And this is really, our design has to relate to our audience, our customer's audience. If it doesn't, then it's not any good. Yes?
Before I forget, I would like to add something to the images because I'm a designer and I work with developers. And what I noticed that, they use the 75 dpi most of the time, but the images are not cropped. So sometimes the images are huge and they just shrink it down to the size what the website needs. But it's still a huge amount of data.
Absolutely.
So if you embed something, then you should choose the correct image size. That's one thing. And the other thing is that don't just pull the image. So you have a 400 pixel column, and you find a smaller image or a bigger image, and you just pull it over, just to make it, and it completely distorts the image.
So you're talking about resizing without keeping, yes.
Exactly. That's two problems that I noticed that developers do. And they just don't see that, the face is much wider or much...
Yeah, and we really have to give developers credit. I mean, there is no way that, I do both, but I don't do the development nearly to the degree of the design. And there's a reason for that. For a long time, when I first started my business, I did both. And I found that my designs were limited. Because as I was designing something, I was thinking, okay, well, I want to do this, but how am I going to make it work, right? So I wasn't able to really be an expert at everything. So I said, this is where I want to focus most of my energy, and I'm going to hire somebody to do the heavy lifting of the dev stuff for me. And so that's how I work. And again, this talk was initially I thought, well, I work with so many customers who come to me and say, I have an awesome developer. I love my developer, but he tells me he doesn't know how to design anything, right? So they come to me to help guide him so that they can make it work. Very good points. Make sure that if you're resizing, that you're keeping the aspect ratio in place. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, for your information, there is a program called JPEG Mini.
Oh, what?
JPEG Mini.
JPEG Mini.
Yes. And it resizes the JPEGs to have animation and all that. Much smaller size. It's fantastic.
There's a lot of tools. That's one I hadn't heard of, but thank you. JPEG Mini. Other questions? 5 minutes? Perfect. Okay, so I've just given you all these guidelines, right? This is what we want to do. Art is about breaking the rules. So take the guidelines, practice, get comfortable, but know that You don't have to do everything by the book because that's what art is. We want to be able to express ourselves. We want to be able to provide our clients with something that's valuable and is going to work for their customers. But we want to be creative at the same time. So don't pigeonhole yourself into rules. You can bend them a little bit and still have things look nice. Questions? Anything I didn't cover? Yes?
Do you have any suggested tools for the grid lines, how to make sure that the website lines up?
I did say I was going to show you. Yeah, you can. What do you use for visual editor?
I don't.
Okay.
I mean, I might use Photoshop, but.
Photoshop, you can. There's a setting at the top, like the view settings. You can show the grid,
Okay.
and then you can adjust the grid to how many pixels you want that to be.
Okay.
Yes.
Any recommendation on a visual editor?
I'm sorry.
Recommendations for visual editor?
I use Photoshop the most. I think iPicky is one that's on the web. I believe that's still free.
Splash Up.
What was it?
Splash Up.
Splash Up. Look
Not
at
as
that.
powerful as Photoshop, but it's free. It's there.
Well, sometimes I'll be like, I really don't want to fire up Photoshop right now because it just, it's heavy. But Splash Up.
Jump right in.
Cool. If you're on a Mac, Preview is a great tool. You can resize images right in Preview. You can change the resolution, you can change the dimensions. You can't change like the framing and such. But for quick resizing, Preview's great on the Mac. I think you can do the same thing in Paint on Windows, but it's been a while since I've been on a Windows machine, so I'm not sure. We were talking about the color dropper. I use this little thing in Firefox, where I can click on it, and it gives me this little crosshair, and I can drag it around, and I can choose all kinds of colors. So then I click on a color that I want. It will automatically copy that to my clipboard, or I can click this little drop down, and I can copy any different value that I need, RGB or perhaps anything. And if it isn't quite right, I can click on that. And I can just drag this around until it's perfect. And then again, I've got my values all right here. So that's a Firefox add-on.
What's your name?
Colorzilla, and
Col-
they make it for Chrome.
Yep.
Everything
Yep.
else.
Oh, they do?
It's Colorzilla. Yes.
One of the great things in WordPress is that the themes do so much the layout for us that we can populate it with content. But one of the challenges that I face at least is how to come up with a good header image. Can you give us any wisdom just to point us in the right direction for headers?
Yeah, using these practices that we just talked about, again, depending on the project. A nice logo type, made out of type, is nice if your customer doesn't have one. I don't use a lot of like photos and such in a header, but it depends on, again, what the project is. Make sure it's balanced. Colors are going to match. Yeah, I'm not sure if that answers your question.
No, any advice?
Okay, and definitely, again, depending on the site, you might want something that's really bold and stands out with, big font and without being over the top, and then maybe it's, for like a very basic site, sometimes the header is the main graphic on the entire page, and then you just have some fonts that you do a font replacement, and that's enough for the design. It really depends. Good question. Anybody else? Good enough? Yes.
Yeah, where can I find the slides?
I'm going to post them, and I'll put a link out on Twitter. I have a fairly long drive home tonight, so when I get home I'll post them, so you'll see them by the evening.
Maybe one additional question about design. How do you embed or how do you take into account the research about eye movement as the page?
Yeah, were you in the SEO section today?
No, it was mentioned yesterday. Yeah, it was.
Crazy Eye is a great tool if you don't use that already. And it will actually give you, it'll give you a visual of where people are looking. So it'll actually give you like different colors on their page, like you can put a website up, and it will tell you what people are looking at by where their mouse is and what they're clicking on, and you can use that in your design, or you can use that as research, or if you have a page that's already there, as a way to maybe make some edits. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes?
I'm just wondering if there's anything you can say about how much your information should be broken up into different sections or pages, or whether you should have one long page, or if there's anything that you use as a rule of thumb.
Yeah, it used to be that above the fold was, we had to have everything above the fold, and we had lots and lots of pages so that things didn't fall below the fold. That's not really the case anymore, especially with mobile. I mean, they expect to scroll. That said, ridiculously long pages you could certainly break up. I tend to say, 4 or 5, like 3 blog posts is about the limit before I'll break it off to the next one. I allow for scrolling, and I don't design against that, but, use your judgment. You don't want to lose the user, but I think if they can get to the information that they need with the least amount of clicks is really important. Yes?
Just maybe a last question. Do you think that homepage design and what they put on the homepage is changed over the period of time? Because my feeling is that, we used to start, let's say, 7 years ago, click on this and this company's homepage and we have some intro. But what I do lately is more like put a lot of content and a lot of information. So I don't bother people with welcoming our page because they know that they know they are on this page.
Right.
But we need, visual information as much as possible.
That's a great question, and they do need information. Don't put welcome on. Again, it's an old thing we used to do. They know where they are, right? That said, I don't put a ton of information. I don't recommend putting a ton of information on your homepage. What I do recommend is that you're very clear what you want the customer to do next. So your call to action needs to be really clear on your homepage. So maybe it's sign up for the newsletter. So you make that button really big, and that's what they're going to do. Maybe it's a link to hire you. Maybe it's a link to go buy something. Pick one thing, maybe 2, that is really important, and design around that. Most people aren't going to come into your website and land on your homepage if they're coming from somewhere else. Okay? So the other pages are really where you want to expand your content, and your homepage is like an introduction. It's a combination of an introduction and a soft sell. Here you are. Here's what I want you to do next. That's the way I design. That answer your question?
Yeah,
Yeah, and again, it's going to depend on the site. It really is. Yeah.
We're gonna wrap it up.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
So I've been tasked to doing closing remarks. We want to thank you all for coming. Be sure to thank the sponsors who have left already. But you can find them online. If you guys are local, be sure to check out the Boston WordPress meetup. We meet here once a month. I can't remember those anymore. Meetup.boston.p.org. And we should have videos up in, I'd say, give it a month or 2, maybe even 3.
All this content will be on video, all the presentations?
The presentations only for Saturday and Sunday. With the exception of 1 or 2, because someone designed their slides.
There's one. There's only one.
Oh, there's one? Okay. And if you didn't pick up your shirt, visit the registration desk. Thanks, guys.